Gabi from the Hedrick Public Library, and today I'm going to show you a little bit of bike maintenance. How to get your bike ready to ride for the new season, especially if, like this one, it's been in storage for a little while. So we're going to go over some of the basic things that you can do to make sure that your bike is ready to ride. This video will not cover what to do if you're riding and you get a flat tire, or some of the more in-depth things. This is just basic knowledge for taking care of your bike so that you can have a good, safe ride. The first thing we're going to do to get started is we're just going to give it a good wipe down with a damp rag, and I have a little bit of soap in here just to get it all cleaned up. This bike in particular has been in storage, so there's some dust, some sawdust on it, and we just want to get rid of that so that we can do the rest of our maintenance and make sure it's nice and clean and that all of the parts are working together smoothly. So I just have a garage rag here. I tend to set aside rags that are too old to use inside anymore and use them in the garage for things that are a little bit more dirty or might stain. So we're gonna wring it out really, really well. We will call that good enough to get started on the next step. So the first thing we're going to do, now that we have it all clean and ready to go, is fill our tires with the appropriate amount of air. So you'll see that this tire is, let's see, make sure you can see it, is really squishy because there's not a lot of air pressure in there. It's been sitting, the changes in temperature over the seasons can cause your tire pressure to change, and also it just leaks in general as you ride it. So there are a couple things to know when you are checking and changing the air in your tires. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna find the stem, and you will need to do this either at your local gas station. There will be an air compressor, or some of your bike trails will have a filling station and they will have an air chuck. So this attachment to the air compressor hose is called an air chuck. We happen to have a compressor in the garage here, so that's why I'm doing this here. You can't quite tell from this video because it's too far away, but this and my stem are different sizes. So you will need to have an adapter, and you can find this at your local bike store, and it is something that just screws onto the stem before you apply the air chuck. So that would be right here, but I have it set up already on this tire so you can see what we're doing. All right, so do you see this little silver stem there? That has the adapter already on it. So now my stem and the air chuck are the same size. So each bike, one thing with the adapter is that Trek is pretty common for needing an adapter, and some other brands will also need one, but you can always check that out or talk to the person selling you your bike, look it up online. There are lots of ways to know before you have to fill it with air and find out the hard way. So the next step is knowing how much air pressure your tires need. And again, the type of tire, the type of bike, they're all going to be slightly different requirements. And the way to know the amount of air pressure that your tire needs is by reading the sidewall, so that's this part of your tire. And it'll be printed on there in probably some really tiny fine print. So first you need to locate that, and I have mine here. It says the minimum air pressure is 50 and the max is 85. So I'm gonna aim for about 80, and it's PSI. So I believe it's pounds per square inch, and it's just the measurement. So another piece you're going to need is a tire gauge. So that's this little tool here. It's actually the same one I use for my car, so checking the tire pressure of my car tires. It has this part here, so that's where the air stem will go. And then this little thing pops out of it depending on how much pressure is in your tires. So one thing to know is, I think you can see it, that's red print. And then if I turn it, there's black print. So it alternates. And you want to make sure that you're reading the right measurement of, so this is PSI in black, and then it's KPA, which is, I believe it's the metric measurement printed in red. So make sure you're reading the right side of your pressure gauge. So I put a little air in this tire already, so I can show you how the tire gauge works. So I take the opening of my gauge here, and I fit it directly to the stem. And you want to make sure that they're very level and connected and it's straight on there. So I'm just going to use an amount of pressure to push up into the stem and pull it right back down. And then it popped out just a little bit there. So my current tire pressure is at 40. So you can see that because it popped out at 40. So the same thing, I'm going to take my air chuck and I'm going to make sure that it matches. Again, keep it nice and level and straight. And you want to be careful doing this. Only add air in very short spurts, okay? And one thing also is to make sure it doesn't get stuck, because it's a very tight fit so the air can pass from one to the other. And you don't want it to get stuck on there because you can overfill your tires and it can be dangerous because tires can explode. So we're just always being safe when we are using tools and extra equipment. So a nice straight fit, just like that, a really short fill. And it takes some time because you have to check, fill it, check it. And always when you check, make sure that the reader is pushed back into the air gauge. Because if I have it out here and then I read it, well, then it's overfull. So you push it in. All right, push it back in. We're gonna fill a little more. Whoop. And I know it's really tempting to be like, oh, my tires are so empty, I'm just gonna hold the hose on there and let it fill. It is not the way you wanna do this, guys. I know it's a timely process, but it's better to do it right than have an accident or have something break or injure yourself in the process. Looks like we're at 80, so we are all set to move on. I'll do the same thing to the other tire, and then we will go on to the next part of our bike maintenance. The next thing we're going to do is clean our tire rims because this affects our ability to brake. So I'm going to squeeze the brake handle, and you're going to watch right here. All right. So see this, it squeezes these pads right here against the rim of our tire, and that's what helps us slow down and brake. And we want to make sure that this is nice and clean because if there's any grease, rust, buildup on it, it'll slow down our ability to brake. So right now I have some paper towel and a general purpose garage cleaner, but you can use a general purpose house cleaner, like even Windex will work. So I'm going to put a little of that on my paper towel, and I'm just going to wipe down the rim, so right here, so this is where my brake pad is, right here, and I'm going to just wipe down this part. It looks kind of silver right now. So I'm gonna wipe that down, and as I go, I'm just gonna turn the tire, do it on both sides of each tire, front and back, so both of those. So I'm just gonna... It helps, so when you're doing these tasks that require you to spin the tire, to pick a spot like with a label or something like that. That'll be your start and your finish mark so that you know when you've done the entire thing. So you can see already that that was pretty dirty. So I'm gonna grab a new spot, grab a little more cleaner, and do the other side. Getting those nice and clean. I'm gonna do the front wheel and then we'll move on to the next step. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to oil the chain. So that's right in here, and we're going to use just a little bit of WD-40, which they sell at almost any hardware store, even at some gas stations. And we're also going to use that same paper towel we had for cleaning our rims. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold the paper towel underneath my chain here. Let's get that tucked in there just right, so it's easy to hold. And we're going to use the paper towel because we don't want to get any of the WD-40 on the bike itself, the frame, or on our braking surface, so that part that we just cleaned down with our general purpose cleaner, because that will make it too slippery for our brakes to pad onto. And you want to oil your chain if it's been over winter or if it's been out in the rain, if it got wet at all. That can cause it to rust or to lock up, things like that. And my chain looks like it's in pretty good condition still, so I'm just going to use a very light bit of WD-40. So I just need a quick spurt and to keep moving while I do so. So I'm going to try to tilt the camera here just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. So underneath my chain, and I'm just going to go, all right. And then to move on to the next part, I'm just going to, there we go. You made that look so easy. There we go. Pedal it a little bit to move the chain forward. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just needing a very little bit at a time. It's kind of hard to do that sitting, so I'm going to get some leverage here. There we go. All right. All right, I'm gonna give that a good spin here. Good. So one thing, if your chain was really rusted or it had been out in the rain and there's a good bit of water damage there, you might want to oil your chain with WD-40 like we did, take it out for a small ride, kind of get everything going again, and then you might need to apply some more. But that should be good for now. The next thing we're gonna do is check the tension of our brakes. So that means that when I'm squeezing my brake handle, I wanna make sure that my brake pads right up in here are squeezing my tire with that same strong grip. So the way to do that is I'm gonna pick up my bike a little bit. I'm gonna squeeze the brake handle like I would if I was braking. And then I'm just gonna see if I can move my tire. So like the pads are squeezing it right here, and I'm giving it a good pull, and it's not really going anywhere. So that's a good thing, okay? If you find that your tire is slipping, you might want to adjust your tension. Now I'm gonna wheel this back a little closer to the camera so you can see what we're talking about. Hopefully you can see enough on here. I'm actually gonna hold a light on it so that you can see precisely what we're doing. All right. This is how we adjust the tension of our brakes. Right here, there is a collar on the brake cable. And right here is an outer collar. So I would hold this first collar right here. And I'm going to turn it towards you guys. So away from me if I'm straddling the bike. So you would turn this, and then turning just this part of it, you would either tighten it or loosen it depending on how you need to adjust your tension. And then when you're all done, turn just that first inner collar again. There is also a notch. So you can see it on this one right here. I can like stick my fingernail in there. There is a notch in that inner collar in case you need to open it with like a flathead screwdriver to really get some leverage. But be careful because you can break them and you don't want that to happen. So again, we're just testing our brake tension, and both of mine are doing real good from last year, so I don't really need to do any adjustments. And then the last thing we would do is we would check our reflectors. So make sure that your front reflector is there and it's not cracked or bent or anything like that. And then also my back reflector. And we just want to always check on those for the sake of safety. Because we always want to take bike safety seriously. So I know that we didn't talk a lot about the gear mounts or the shifters down in here or with our pedals, because unless you are a total gearhead or have a lot of background with bike maintenance, you don't want to mess with those too much because they can be complicated to put back on by yourself. So after we've checked our air pressure, we've cleaned our rims, we've checked our brake tension, we've oiled our chain. Just make sure that your seat, all that stuff is on nice and tight again, nothing's come loose over winter or storage. You should be pretty ready for the season of some excellent bike riding. If you have more complicated questions, or if anything on your bike has been giving you specific problems, if you're hearing like squeaks or rattles coming from your shifter, or you're having issues with your pedals or your suspension, then I would recommend taking it to your local bike shop. They will be totally ready to help you and teach you about your bike and how to care for your bike. This is the basic introduction to some bike maintenance that'll help you get ready to have a good, clean, and safe ride. Don't forget to be safe in the bike lanes, wear your helmet, and remember your turn signals, and have a great and safe ride. Thanks for tuning in.